welcome to Weird Around Illinois. We're getting into the season now for ghosts and goblins and scary things, so we thought it would be nice to visit a haunted restaurant. The one we chose is the Great Escape in Schiller Park. Let's get weird. Well, let's start with the little history on the Great Escape. The building that it's in is really, really old. It's built in 1889. And just to give you a sense of perspective, that means that building was built 100 years before I graduated high school.
Yeah.
And I know you guys think I'm old, but...
That's really, really old.
Yeah. In the 1900s, the beginning of the 1900s, they were actually filming silent movies there, starring a famous silent movie cowboy named Tom Mix. They were using the building as like the ranch house, and the Des Plaines River runs right behind it, so they were using that as the Rio Grande.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Then later, when we get into the 1920s, it became a speakeasy, like an illegal bar. Al Capone supplied the liquor there, and apparently he spent some time there pretty regularly himself. They had like a couple guys with shotguns guarding the door and stuff to make sure that the police wouldn't come in and bust the place. It was quite the hangout. Well, that being said, I have to say, it seems like every haunted site in Illinois and Wisconsin has some kind of connection to Al Capone.
Yeah, I mean, he's spread all around Illinois. You can't go to a haunted restaurant without finding him.
Yeah, it's interesting. But, at least we know his connection to this place is real. I mean, they've got pictures and everything of, the speakeasy days.
Yeah.
So they added a dining room and kitchen in the 1980s and made it into a regular restaurant. The Great Escape took over in 1992. What's interesting is that they've kept a lot of stuff through this renovation. There's a few of the old doors, and, like the banquet area is original, and the basement apparently is original. But most importantly, they've got this huge mirror behind the bar that apparently is the same mirror that they've had since the Al Capone days. So that's interesting. There's definitely a character to the place being so old with such a rich history.
Yeah, and we hear a lot about there's more paranormal activity around mirrors. I mean,
True.
There's stairs that they can go in and out mirrors, and almost like a portal.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing to save for that reason.
Yeah.
So on the subject of paranormal encounters, they've had a few.
Yeah, this one had actually a few unique ones that you don't hear all the time. And starting one is on their website. Supposedly, there was a man in a black suit with a clipboard that was, I guess, walking near a closet and then disappeared into the closet.
Then they open it and there's nothing there.
Yeah, that's pretty unusual. I'd say Men in Black, but I mean, that's a haunted restaurant, that's something else.
Right.
And then there's also classic feelings of being watched, which can definitely be unsettling at times, especially if you were to be alone in that kind of restaurant.
Yeah.
It can be a little bit too quiet, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it seems like the staff report that a lot, that they feel like there's somebody next to them when there's nobody there, or they feel like they're being watched, or just don't feel alone when they should be alone there.
Yeah. And then another one that's slightly unique. There are cold spots.
Yeah. Often those are associated with hauntings. We haven't been to a lot of places that have claimed to have cold spots, although we've kind of found some randomly on our own.
Yeah, usually it's just in the most random spots, but not particularly in a restaurant. I don't know if it was described as like a couple different spots or one particular area that was cold.
Yeah, they weren't really clear on that. I'm not sure.
Well, something really interesting now is that at some point there was 1920s music playing after hours when some kind of music box or speakers weren't supposed to be playing. So, I mean, Al Capone was there around the 1920s, so
right.
That's pretty interesting. That was at around the same period of time, the music.
Yes, and we've heard this like many times in haunted restaurants, where there's just random sounds that play or random music that plays. It's a recurring theme.
Yeah, I'd like to know who identified it, though, because, I know music pretty well, and, well, heck, you and I took a music course with the same guy, that's
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could recognize 1920s music.
Yeah, did somebody like search up the song name?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of lump everything pre-1945 into like the same bucket. So,
Hey, it was the Roaring 20s.
Yeah.
So there was something special about it.
Yeah, I guess if you can picture somebody doing one of those odd flapper dances where they pick one leg up behind them, then you got the right type of music.
Yeah, I just never understood the hype behind the Roaring 20s.
Yeah, it's odd time. So on the subject of music, they had another weird musical thing there, right?
Yeah, so they have an antique radio there, or at least had one at some point. We didn't see one at the time, but
Probably in the basement they wouldn't let us into. We'll get into that later.
yeah. But yeah, that supposedly started playing just randomly, but when they went to check like how it was playing, there was no electricity even connected to it.
Yeah.
There was no power source.
That had to be pretty spooky.
Yeah. Then nothing really haunted necessarily, but before we came there was actually a lot of different people who already investigated that area.
Yeah.
That restaurant, Chicago Paranormal Detectives.
Yeah, it's strange. I hadn't really run across them before this, but apparently they're a well-respected paranormal investigation group in Chicago. We should probably talk to them sometime.
Yeah.
But they did a YouTube video out there, and they did some investigations, and I think they had some minor experiences of their own while they were there, if I'm not mistaken.
One step ahead of us.
Did they get access to the basement too?
I believe they did.
Ah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So that leads us to our experiences. We were there for dinner, and we happened to make mention to the waitress that we were interested in the paranormal phenomenon, and the waitress, Frankie, I believe her name was, she opened up and told us some stories. The first one that I remember was she talked about, and I know we've kind of gone back and forth on this because we remember it a little differently, but I believe she said that she had a feeling of being followed as she went into a bathroom, and then there's nobody around, and then later she was speaking with a psychic or medium who apparently come there pretty regularly because of the hauntings, and they were saying that they detected that she was like well liked by the spirits, and that was why she was being followed.
Oh.
Now, again, I'm giving this with a grain of salt because we all remember that story just slightly differently, whether it was Frankie herself being followed, or whether she heard about somebody being followed, or saw someone being followed, or whatever. It's interesting how three people can hear the exact same thing and come away with a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say it was a coworker that had that experience, but again, I could be wrong.
Yeah. So apologies if we got the story wrong. We were eating dinner at the time, so we weren't taking copious notes.
Yeah. Yeah. My excuse was that I was already tired.
That's true. And I was just getting over being sick. So.
Oh
Yeah, I think we're all tired that night.
Yeah.
And of course, there were like other coworkers that had like odd experiences, specifically in the basement. I think it was New Year's Day, right?
Yeah. Apparently, a lot of weird things happened there on New Year's Day.
Although we won't be able to see what the basement looked like.
That's kind of a sticking point with us. I know they were very gracious and accommodating. I know, Frankie asked the more senior person who was working there, can these people get access? And they let us into the banquet room, which is one of the older rooms. The banquet room is right behind that. But regardless of our persistence and constantly asking if there was any way we could get into the basement, signing a waiver, going one at a time, whatever, they weren't having it. And I suspect maybe if the owner or manager had been on property at the time.
Here's the weird part, though. Well, according to the waitress, the owner wasn't even comfortable with them going down into the basement anymore.
That's true, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not even just us.
Well, and this is going to sound a little misogynistic. I don't mean to pin this on the owner, but it sounds to me like specifically he didn't want the female workers going down the basement.
Yeah, I wonder what he or she is trying to find there.
Yeah, or is it that the spirits are specifically harassing the female workers?
Which would align with Al Capone, probably, and his goons.
Good point.
Yeah.
And, especially on New Year's Eve, apparently, the one waitress we spoke to actually wanted to work New Year's Eve to experience some of this stuff and was flat out told no. Because they don't have any women working on New Year's Eve.
Wow.
Which, again, very odd. But, just overprotective boss, I guess, if he feels there's legitimate danger. Then, good on him, I suppose.
Yeah, in a way that kind of adds to the credibility of the whole story.
Yeah.
The boss is that serious about it that they'll just completely have people avoid that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't seem like the owner was playing around.
No, definitely not. So we did look around a little bit. I mean, again, with permission, we walked around the bar, we walked around the banquet area a little bit. I mean, the general vibe is definitely historic. I mean, they've got those old pictures everywhere. They've got old artifacts, presumably from, before it was a restaurant, before it was a bar, when it was like a general store or something.
Yeah, I wish I took more videos of the pictures, and especially the Al Capone, painting or drawing there.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't quite get a shot of that because it was really crowded and it was like right next to a bar.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to stick out of the crowd there.
Yeah, you didn't want to get carded or anything.
No.
I have to say, I felt more around the bar than I did in the banquet area. The banquet area was part of the original structure, and apparently they've had some paranormal activity there, and I expected to just be wowed when I walked in there, but it just felt like any other banquet hall.
Well, the problem was that there were people eating there.
That's true.
I mean,
yeah.
I think we were all so uncomfortable, it was actually hard to tell what was going on.
Yeah. And again, they were very accommodating. They actually asked the people who were having a private party there if it would be all right if we strolled in for a minute, and they were fine with it. But at the same time, I didn't want to break out the gear and start, doing a heavy investigation when, these people paid for the room for a private party.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like going to Shoe Factory Road when there's so many cars going by.
Yeah.
It's hard to find anything haunted if there's just people all around.
Yeah. I will say this, though. When I went back and did that next run of EMF readings, when, I realized I hadn't even checked the bar, that whole bar area and the mirror particularly lit up on the EMF detector.
All the way to red?
Not all the way to red, but deep into the green, like a half to 2/3 of the way up the meter.
Oh, okay.
And it was consistent. I mean, it wasn't like I was pointing at an outlet or something and that was causing it. It was that whole space was lit up, which I found interesting. I think our takeaway from this on the paranormal side is we need to investigate this place when it's not so crowded. And, we got to get in touch with the owner, figure out, what we need to sign, what we need to do to get into that basement, or what we need to do to get into the restaurant after they close or before they open or something, so that we can really check it out. Because I do feel like there could be something there. I don't think these people are making up the stories, and I certainly felt the history in the building, so I think it's worth another visit if we can see it on our terms.
Yeah, I heard you announce when we were there that you got EMF readings, but I wish so bad that wasn't so crowded, so I could head over there, but it's so crowded and we're just about to head out and kind of rushed in a way.
Yeah. But, because it is a restaurant, we would be remiss if we didn't take a minute to talk about the food.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, is just as important as the paranormal phenomena to us, usually.
Yeah.
So, they had an Oktoberfest menu going, in addition to their regular menu. So I tried these smoked pork chops with what was essentially red cabbage sauerkraut and potato pancakes. I enjoyed it. I mean, the pork chops, they basically tasted like a good ham steak, the way they were smoked. And the potato pancakes were perfect, very, very flaky and flavorful. Not a big fan of sauerkraut, so I can't really tell if it was good or bad, but for people who like sauerkraut or like red cabbage, I'm sure it was good.
Yeah. Then I just ordered an omelet. I wasn't hungry, I was just done with the day already, but I mean, I kind of appreciated the menu, the description of that particularly. It just said, sometimes just want an omelet. And that's exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
I just wanted an omelet, so that's why I ordered. It came with toast and hash browns as well. Yeah, it was all good.
Good. Yeah, it's nice that they include that little kind of, and I know the place is called The Great Escape, but it's almost like an escape in their menu, you know, if you get there and you don't want all the heavy stuff that they got on there, you know, you just want an omelet.
Yeah, exactly.
And I decided to try something new. I decided to try a schnitzel. It was good. I wouldn't say it was great, but it was good.
Not that at this particular restaurant, but you had a friend who told you desperately had to try schnitzel at some point in your life, right?
Yeah, it was like his favorite food. I decided eventually I'd have to try it.
Yeah.
Even though eventually after that he told me chicken schnitzel, which was the one I had. He said he doesn't even like that. But he doesn't like chicken anyway. So yeah.
So is that just like a savory kind of food?
It was like country fried steak in a way. Just
okay.
chicken or pork.
Yeah, so I knew nothing about schnitzel.
Yeah.
Me either.
Yeah.
Me either.
Yeah.
Mine came with the red cabbage like yours did.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really eat that.
That stuff was ugly.
Yeah, it's basically just sauerkraut, just with no sourness and a little bit of sweetness.
Yeah, maybe a bit bloody as well.
Well, you know, it was a Halloween theme for us, so
Yeah.
it's a little blood.
It also came with like little potato slices, which were pretty good.
So all in all, the food was pretty solid. I mean, it wasn't a Bigfoot burger or anything, but it was definitely a good restaurant.
Yeah, if we go again, I might try an omelet.
You know, if we go again, I may try a burger. They had a couple good-looking burgers on there, but I think we just had burgers the night before, so I wasn't really up for that.
Yeah, if we were to go back, I'd order a bacon burger. If there was one.
I think there was. All right. Well, if any of you, I guess before I get into that, I should say, what are your conclusions on this place? I mean, do you feel like it's worth another investigation? Do you feel like there's nothing there anymore? Or what do you think?
I think it's definitely worth an investigation. I think it has a really strong history, and the worker, at least the one worker we saw, seemed really credible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to just get in contact with the owner, see if we could negotiate something to happen. Because I mean, in the crowd, I mean, it's pretty hard to decide. And it seemed like it was the place was doing well in terms of customers. It was crowded.
And it was like a Wednesday night or a Thursday night or something.
Yeah,
You know, it's not like we were there on a Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
That place was hopping.
Yeah. I mean, around the bar and the basement would be the top two places to investigate.
All right. Well, I think I agree with you both that, you know, it's worth checking out again if we can get it under different circumstances than this time.
Yeah. I'd rather investigate that bar without a whole bunch of drunk people around.
Yeah, that's usually a good approach. Right, well, as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And if you have anything to share about The Great Escape or other haunted sites around Chicagoland, we would love to hear it. And thank you very much.